UFO.
Your brand, who you are, how you show up, the things that you focus on, the things that you like to do, like to think about, how you like to move. It's all a reflection of your initial thought process, your paradigm, and how you operate. Not only how you internalize information, but how you perceive the information to begin with, which then in turn affects how you think, affects how you feel, and then of course that turns into behavior and patterns of behavior in real time. So enough of the fancy talk. Let's get into it. Most of the time, you don't think or feel the way you want to think or feel is because how you're going about receiving information. If you see the world in good or bad, right or wrong, you're going to struggle a lot, especially for my guys watching this. If you're a guy watching this and your primary mode of thinking is good and bad, right or wrong, um, everything is either hyper positive or hyper negative, like you just move between two different extremes at all times, it's going to be hard for you to really not only be centered in your everyday movements, you'll be triggered a lot. There could be a lot of things happening that take you off course or remove you from forward progression at all times. But also, too, it will dysregulate you and have you not really aligned with exactly who you are, your purpose, your values, and what it is that you truly care about. And that's what we want to get into today, what you truly care about as it reflects how you think and see the world. All right. So before we're done, I will want anyone who's listening to this or watching this, wherever you're listening to or watching this on, to connect with executive clarity for better brand presence and performance. And when we say brand, right, we're not necessarily talking about how you show up on social media. Like, we're not talking about an online presence or digital footprint per se. Your brand is the essence in which you operate. Your brand is your personal experience, your inner experience with yourself, and also how others may perceive you. Now, we don't dwell too heavily on how others perceive you because they may be on a completely different frequency or wavelength than you are when it comes to awareness, when it comes to alignment, when it comes to how they internalize information or process and receive the world, which is what we're talking about here. So you're not always going to necessarily align with everyone, which would be more of a right and wrong perspective. Today, we're going to more so talk about the true and false. What's true for you, what's false for you, because what might be true for me might be false for you. Okay. But in turn, if we compare it, what might be true for me might be bad for me, even though it's true. What might be false for you could be something that could help you. It could be a good thing for you. So we want to lean into what's true and false first, so then we can make clarity decisions about what it is we should do to either correct something that's false or improve on something that might be true about us that could be negative. And then, of course, it goes both ways. Something true could also be very positive about you. Something false could be something that shows up negative in your space. So let's get into it. If you have some notes, if you have a pen or paper or something, feel free to take it out, use your phone, whatever. This is an education space, right? I like to provide things that are practical and pragmatic. So the first thing I want you to do, write down your top three, okay, list it out 1 through 3. Write down your top 3 daily priorities. When I say daily priorities, all right, I don't want you to write down a list of the things that you do every day. I want you to, in turn, summarize those things. So if you take a lot of time and you put a lot of energy into your hygiene, if you take a lot of time and put a lot of energy into your work or into progressing as a professional, that would be a priority, professional progression, or hygiene and self-care, or spending time with your family. So not necessarily like the things you might do with your family, but if you know you spend a lot of time with your family, if that's your priority to get home every day or to make sure you have enough time to spend with wife and kids, girlfriends, partners, spouse, etc., children, or if you don't have children, maybe other family members, then that will be a priority. So if you understand that, then you can understand where most of your resources go, okay? Where most of your alignment is. So you want to know your top three daily priorities, not top three things you care about or necessarily think about, but where does your physical energy go? So we start from there. So the physical energy is the actual physical output. So we start from the conclusion. Where does it go? So once we know where it goes, then we can align as to why it goes there, which kind of taps into the emotional perspective, right? Because we do what we feel. Now, people might be like, wait, no, 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 no. I don't do what I feel, I do what I think. Absolutely. But your thought created the emotion, the passion, and the sense of purpose behind your patterns and behavior. So if we reverse engineer, your actions or a conclusion of your emotions, which embodies passion, purpose, and then that passion and purpose came from a thought process, how you internalize either past events, how you internalize things that should be important, how you internalize a certain result that made you feel as though you should align to that mentally. And then that mental space created an emotion and a drive and a fuel for the fire and the passion that produces a certain pattern of behavior, which are your real-time actions. So we start from the front and move it to the conclusion. It started with a thought, which led to your emotions, which led to behavior. Okay. It works in that tandem. So when we think about our personal brand and the thing that's important to us in building clarity, we have to understand where our priorities are, and we have to understand why we have those priorities. And those priorities are our patterns, not necessarily what we care about, things we might aspire to do, our goals, our bucket lists, things that we think are cool, or things that we watch on TV or might indulge in from a digital or technological space. But our purpose and our priorities show up in our patterns of behavior. But we have to understand why we have those patterns of behavior to understand our brand better. Now, once you've written that down, once you've written down your three top priorities, and then once you get those three, I want you for each priority, write down why it's important to you first, and then write down why you think it was important to you to have that priority or that pattern of behavior to begin with. So, for example, if working a lot is important to you, right? That's the conclusion. You like to work, you like to prioritize work and professional progress. Excellent. That will be your conclusion if we're going to reverse engineer that end result. So then why would that be important to you? Because you want to have a lot of money, you want to make sure that you can take care of yourself and your family or your future family, make investments. You want to make sure that you have enough money in the bank just in case we go into economic hard times or some type of recession or something that's similar to that. We might experience another pandemic. Who knows, right? If that's your why, then that's the emotion and the passion and the fuel that feeds that pattern of behavior. Then take it one more step back, which is the final step, which will be the starting step, and ask yourself, what thought process were you in, or did you have, or what inspired you from a mental perspective, okay, to even begin to say, hey, I think that's important. I think I should prioritize that. I think I feel a way about that, okay? Because your emotions can't happen without a certain thought process, right? When you were younger, your thought process about certain things were different. That triggered or created an emotion for you. As you got older, those same events happening wouldn't trigger or promote the same thought process, which in turn wouldn't promote or empower or enable the same emotion, which means that your patterns of behavior when you were a child were a lot different or are a lot different now that you're older and you're grown. So it starts with a thought. The thoughts create emotions, emotions create patterns. Do that for your top 3 priorities. Figure that out, write it down, take notes. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.